Okay, welcome back to the Answer the Call podcast with Kelsey and Audrey at the Call to Career. But today it's just Audrey because I'm joined by my friend Maddie. And so we are, if you've been listening for the past 7 episodes at this point, we are working through each Enneagram type, talking about the core fears associated with those types, and it's specifically how those core fears have related to people's careers. And we have a special guest on for each episode. And I am so excited that our special guest for the number 8 Enneagram is my dear friend, Maddie. So, Maddie, if you just want to say hi real quick.
Hello, everyone. And Audrey, thank you so much for asking me to be on your podcast. It's an honor, and I am really excited to talk to you today.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And I already can tell you have such a good podcasting voice.
Oh, why, thank you.
You're already slaying the house down.
Oh, let's
go. So I'm going to start by reading the description of the type 8, and then we'll get into talking about everything. Actually, let me pull up my other notes. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to read it from my book. If you've been listening, you know that I keep reading from this book called The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Don Rizzo and Russ Hudson. So the type 8 is called the Challenger. They are described as the powerful, dominating type. 8s are self-confident, strong, and assertive. Protective, resourceful, and decisive. They can also be proud and domineering. 8s feel that they must control their environment, often becoming confrontational and intimidating. They typically have problems with allowing themselves to be close to others. At their best, healthy 8s are self-mastering. They use their strength to improve others' lives, becoming heroic, magnanimous, and sometimes historically great. And then their basic fear is a fear of being harmed or controlled by others, which then the basic desire is the desire to protect oneself, which then deteriorates into constant fighting. Fun.
Fun.
So tell me, out of all of that, and I can reread anything if you want, what if that resonates with you and what maybe doesn't resonate?
I think the part that resonates with me the most is the self-mastering part, because I feel I really stepped into a healthier version of the 8 after I came back to my faith as a Catholic, actually.
Oh.
Because for me, for so much of my life, especially stepping out of my faith, I felt out of control. And it felt like I was constantly digging my nails into sand, trying to get control again. Mm-hmm. And I obviously couldn't do that because I'm not God. I'm not supposed to be in control of everything. So for me, I feel like that was my gift from God coming back to my faith, was becoming a really more self-mastering person by finally saying, I don't have to be in control. You're in control. And that gives me the space to become a self-mastering and powerful person. So that really resonates with me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think the part that sometimes I think slips for me is I am not always a self-confident person. That can fuel some of my anxiety and need for control, because it can become a sort of compensation of like, oh, I'm going to get control over my environment and show people that, dang it, I am confident. I am self-mastering. And I think in the job I'm going to talk to you about, or my experience in my job I'm going to talk to you about today, that really came into the light quite a bit.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. You just said so many good things. And there's so many ways that I could go with all of that. But I do want to hear about the job. Also, I do want to add another thing in there. Even if you don't always feel confident, just being around you, I see that you come off as very confident. And I think you're welcome. That's true for you. And I would imagine true for H, just in maybe there's more going on in their head, right? Of kind of that, I don't know. I'm working that through externally, but you appear very confident.
I think it's the decisiveness. I'm very decisive person, because I don't like the ambiguity of uncertainty. So for me, I want to cut that off as quickly as possible and just make a decision and move forward.
That's such a good connection, and that's absolutely it, because so many people are indecisive, and like when we are trying to decide what restaurant to go to, Maddie's like, this one. And makes decisions very quickly. It's a trait that I love about you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it definitely does feed into that confidence, or that appearing confident, right? And that's great. Okay, so with the job that you've had a couple different jobs in the past year, 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
talk about kind of what was the hardest thing about the job that you transitioned out of about a year ago, that when it comes to your fear of being harmed or controlled by others?
Yeah. I mean, in that job, I had it for 9 months, and I should also say I took it in a decision to end my ambiguity very quickly, and I think it was a decision I did make too
Um,
quickly,
mm,
because it was a job that sounded too good to be true, and I didn't question that, and in the
mhm,
end, it was. And in that job, I was really micromanaged. So a lot of my control was, I felt, taken away from me. Someone else was calling the shots. I did not have room to be an individual. I did not have room to make my own choices. I did not have room to really be the master of my environment. That was really difficult for me. And I felt my passion for my job and the spirit of my job, which is helping people, decrease, which was really disconcerting for me. And I felt my resentment go up, which was not
mhm,
a good sign.
mm. Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to the frustrations of being micromanaged, but it's seems like with an 8, it's even more detrimental to just
Yeah.
mental health and everything. So, what is it specifically about? Is it like someone not trusting you, or is it like what does it lead to when someone is micromanaging you?
I think the biggest message I got, whether it was indirectly or directly communicated, was you're not competent enough to make decisions,
Oh,
which
interesting.
really bothered me
Hmm.
because I have worked so hard to become confident and self mastering and competent, a really important ingredient in those factors.
Hmm.
And to have someone come in and remove all of my ability to choose and to be independent and have that control for me really resonated as I'm not competent, which really shook me and shook my confidence and shook me in my identity.
Hmm. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And okay, I actually forgot to look this up before we started. So this isn't a quiz because I don't know either. But do you know the paths of integration and stress for the 8?
No.
Okay, let's look it up together because
Do
I'm
it.
actually um interested by like what you just said. Be it path of disintegration, so the path of stress, the enneagram that you might appear as or relate to more when you're under times of stress is a 5, and a 5, that is the core fear of a 5 is not being competent.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it makes sense that in a time of stress, like that's what feels like is being attacked, and that's what you're starting to see more come up.
That's crazy because I know nothing about fives.
Yeah. I didn't know a lot about 5s until I did the 5 interview, and I was like, "Whoa, I've got a lot more 5 in me than I thought."
Yeah, apparently me too.
Yeah. And then, oh, the path of integration leads to a 2, which is the helper, the
Yeah.
giver. So that completely makes sense. Also, for context, can you share with people, your job like, your job overall?
Yeah, so in general, I am a clinical mental health therapist, and my background, I have a specialty in trauma and traumatology. And I also have experience working with folks who have active suicidal ideation under a treatment modality called CAMS care, Collaborative Assessment and Measurement of Suicidality. And currently, right now, I am serving in my favorite job I have ever had, which is I'm an MFLAC, or a military and family life counselor, on the School of Infantry East, serving Marines and their spouses every single day. And it's so gratifying for me to have this job because I wanted the job I have currently since I was a baby therapist in graduate school. So this is really a coming to fruition moment for me to have this job.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Also, whenever you talk about your job, I'm like, you're just the coolest ever.
Aw.
And also the smartest ever whenever I ask Maddie a question about just in general. It's almost like you're reading from a textbook when you give me the answer. I'm like, this girl is so competent. Um,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So when you were making that transition from the job that wasn't working out and you actually left that, sorry if I'm blowing up your spot here, but
No,
without
that's cool.
another position lined up, can you talk about how you felt going into that with, not having a position lined up, and then also as you were looking for jobs, how did that change? How did your job search change from the last time you were looking for jobs?
I think unemployment was scary. I was unemployed for 3 months, and it was a very intense time. I'd never been unemployed before. I'd always had a job of some sort, or if I left a job, I was actively interviewing at other positions. So the time I was unemployed was very like a window of a week or two.
Mhm.
So to go from that to being 3 months unemployed was a really big challenge because, again, for me, I think that led right into that disintegration of incompetence of
Mhm.
I'm not together. I don't have it together. I'm falling apart. Look at me. Look at the state of me. And I really needed a lot of gentleness, which I pulled a lot from my faith basis at that point in
Mhm.
time. Because God would never yell at me for being unemployed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if the right word for it is a parable, but a Bible reading that really stuck with me during that time was the reading about walking on the beach with Jesus and seeing the two sets of footprints in the
Mm.
sand. And then the storm
Mhm.
comes in and you see just one and you wonder why you were abandoned and you're very bitter. And then you get to the other side of the storm and you realize you were never alone. It was Jesus carrying you through that storm.
Mhm.
That was, I think, the main difference in this job hunt time frame for me, because during that period of unemployment, I really turned to my faith in a
Mhm.
major way. And I didn't have that in previous job hunts. I had that need for control and that pressure on myself to figure it out by myself, which was really
Mm.
scary and intimidating. But once I entered into a frame of mind of let go and let God, I had a lot more room to be confident and self mastering and reassured that God has my back and I don't need to worry about this the way I'm worrying about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I need to have you as a guest speaker on one of our coaching calls to share that experience with people, or maybe I'll direct them to this exact moment in the podcast, because that is so, like, what a special time to learn a reliance on God that you had never been challenged with before.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's such the can I quote the actual verse? There's plenty of verses from wonderful Paul about finding joy in the suffering.
Oh,
Um,
Paul.
oh, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Um, yeah, rejoicing in trials and finding joy in the suffering. Rejoicing in trials is in James 1. And part of that rejoicing is just continuing to find relationship with him and finding the joy in that, and also not necessarily seeing it as the end of the world. Woe is me, everything's wrong, blah blah blah. I saw when, seeing you through that time, just the responsibility you took. Like, I know it's in my control, so I'm going to do what's in my control and I'll let go of everything that's not in my control. So how did that work out for you?
The job hunt or the most recent one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny. I put my 30 days notice in to my very unpleasant micromanaging job
Mm-hmm.
in November 15th, to be specific, folks.
We'll celebrate.
Remember, yeah, which meant that my last day was December 15th, 30 days out. On January 8th, I was granted the license in the state of North Carolina I needed to apply to my MFLAC job. And
Mhm.
on January 9th, I had applied to this job. And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
very
Yeah.
driven, very decisive.
Very decisive.
And I didn't apply to any other jobs. This was it. And I didn't want any other job.
Mhm.
So it was like it was a 2 month hiring process. All of that period, well, I guess 3 months, all of January, all of February, 2.5. March 13th was my first day. Um, and so much of it was nerves and nervousness. Am I going to get it? Is this going to work? And so much of it, I really like the word you used, was rejoicing,
Hmm.
that I had gotten to this point in time and that this was the final stretch of my race to get to this position, and that God carried me through all the challenges that I had been through previously to get me to this point. And all of the literal thousands of hours of counseling work and the hundreds of hours of studying and test taking and licensing fees was all worth it. And he carried me through that to get me to here.
Wow. Okay, so when you look back on the trials you had to go through, you say that you're grateful for those?
I was not grateful for them at the time. I can tell you that with gusto.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, I really am grateful because not to like pat myself on the back too much, but I think another thing I really connect with in my role as counselor to these Marines is finding the hero in each of us. Something that I talk about in one of my briefs I give with our chaplain, as a matter of fact,
Oh.
is I give a brief with our chaplain, and our chaplain talks all about trauma, especially childhood trauma, and he goes through the ACE checklist, or the Adverse Childhood Incidents checklist. And then he's talking for probably 40 minutes about trauma and the different ways it impacts us as adults. And then I come in and spend 15 minutes talking just about post-traumatic growth. And a piece of my brief is actually borrowed from a mythologist who found this narrative device when he was studying different myths from different cultures. And he realized it doesn't matter what culture you come from. All great stories we tell follow this same narrative device, which is called the hero's arc. And I won't break it down for you now, otherwise I'll be talking to you for 30 minutes. But essentially, it's realizing that you are the hero in your story and you need to master heroicism for yourself in order to proceed and be successful.
Mhm.
And I think I know that I've done that in my story, and I couldn't have done that had it not been for the trials and tribulations presented to me to
Mhm.
uh, hone my iron or sharpen my iron. I needed these challenges and I needed these tests to grow, not only as a counselor, but definitely to grow in my faith.
Mhm. Wow. And also just from a personal note of seeing you through that time, for you now to sit here and say, I am grateful for it. And I like that. Kudos to you, because that was a really, really hard time. But I mean, I see directly how it did lead you to the job that you're in now. And I'm always so gracious or grateful to God as well when He allows us to see the story in hindsight, because we're not owed that. We're not owed everything coming together in a way that makes sense to us. But He grants us that. He grants us the clues and the understanding that we have to then look back and be like, okay, I get it. And even if we didn't have that understanding, we're still called as Christians to look back and say, I'm still grateful because I know that the Lord is moving here. And I know that when I'm, surrendering this all to the Lord, that um, He's moving. And it's amazing to hear you say that, just knowing the struggles that you went through in that career. But in your job now, talk about being an 8 and kind of that fear, because it's not like you're in entrepreneurship, as I think it might be a a not a simple path, but more of a direct path for some people who have this 8 personality, be like, well, I can't be controlled by others, so I gotta, be my own boss. And you're not in entrepreneurship, but still in a very like healthy 8 space in your job. So talk about that. What does that look like?
So there's definitely some times I butt up against I'll call them the rules of the program, which I'm not allowed to talk about at liberty just because of security reasons. I can't talk too much about the specific rules of my program. But sometimes I feel like the rules in place to protect the MFLAC program actually hinder my ability to help Marines and their spouses. So that's when I get frustrated and I do feel control and not like the master of my environment anymore. But for me, it's an exercise to get creative. How can I honor this rule and follow the rules and regulations in front of me and still find a way to say yes to this Marine or this Marine Corps spouse and help this person through this moment? And in that way, it becomes another opportunity for self mastery of how can I creatively problem solve around this and still honor my job and honor the person in front of me and use my brain and my heart at the same time.
Oh, I love that. That is so cool, because a pattern I see a lot when talking about people or talking to people about their Enneagram and how that works and flows in their career. a lot of times it comes back to creativity and
Mm.
like, well, the career is never going to be perfect. There's no perfect job for you to never feel pain. And if you're seeking a job so that you don't have to feel pain, you probably just should stop doing that.
Yeah, if I could even speak to that for a
Mhm,
second, I wanna tell everybody listening,
mhm,
I have my dream job. I
mhm.
have the job that I yearned for 5 years, and I still have days where I wake up in my bed and I'm tired and I say to myself, "I don't really wanna do this today." And I still have times when I'm doing my job and I'm really fulfilled, and I also think to myself, "I'm really tired today. I wish I could rest." There's no such thing as a perfect job.
Thank you for saying that. I really pray that that reaches the person that it needs to reach because there's a lot of conversations. I mean, I'm literally a career coach. I have this conversation about designing your career, right? And to
Mhm.
be the best fit for you. And a lot of times people take that too far, thinking not wanting to give up anything. They want the perfect job, which leads into, having the perfect tasks every day and being under the topic that you love so much, and then also having complete lifestyle, like no sacrifice in lifestyle, and you want to do it all working from home or all whenever you want to be in an office you'll have an office, all these demands that we have, when really that's not Christ like.
It's not.
Seeking perfection in this broken world, um outside of him, and so again, I just pray that that reaches whoever it needs to say sacrifice is needed. You need to sacrifice something, even with the dream job. So, what I'm kind of when you were assessing this job and still making sure it was a good fit for you, especially coming out of a job that ended up not being a good fit, what were you looking for? Like, what were the boxes that need to be checked? Maybe just in general, but if you're able to kind of speak to that through like your personality type, what kind of environment did you know you needed to get into that would be a good fit for your personality?
Ooh, I can definitely tell you one thing I really wanted was strong, confident leadership.
Oh, amen to
Yes,
that.
strong, confident leadership because so I'm someone who lives with anxiety. And if I am around other anxious people, that's going to make my task of managing my anxiety more difficult. And that's not to say I can't or shouldn't be around other people with anxiety, but um, it's an extra challenge for me. And I knew I wanted strong, confident leadership to lead and guide me in this position, especially in my early days when I was finding my footing. Because if I didn't have that, if I had anxious leadership, that was almost a guarantee that I was going to be anxious in my job. And I wanted to be self mastered in this job. I wanted
Mhm,
to be confident. I wanted to be decisive. Uh, I wanted to be the king on the chessboard. You know what I
mhm,
mean?
mhm,
So that was something I really wanted in my job. And I think the other big ticket item, which was built into this career, which is perfect for me, I wanted to be around my people. And my people has always been service members. I am not a service member myself, but I have a lot of service members in my family, and their history in the service has colored the way my family interacts with each other and the way we've grown with each other and raised each other. So it's always been a fascination of mine. And I think a third thing I really wanted in my job, which was also a guarantee by virtue of working with service members, I wanted to work with their trauma. Uh,
mhm,
being the challenger, I really enjoy difficult things. I enjoy challenge and difficult tasks, which is why I think I gravitate towards, I call it the uglier side of life, the suicidality, the trauma, the heartbreak that goes with life. And the Marine Corps is a very intense organization that attracts a very intense personality. And a lot of intense personalities have been through intense times. So I really wanted an opportunity to help people in their most painful moments. And even though as an MFLAC, I'm there as a non clinical counselor, so I can't diagnose people, um, I get the opportunity to help people in their pain every single day.
That, what you just said, is so key. The actual task that you're doing every day and ensuring that that is something that is fulfilling to you, and then looking at those external factors of okay, what are the other details that start to round this out as a great job, not the perfect job, but a really, really, really good fit.
Mhm.
And because I was talking earlier, like the task, the topic, and then the lifestyle, and you've got the task and topic absolutely nailed, like so perfect. Oh, not perfect, sorry.
No.
Very, very good. Me going on a rant for 5 minutes about how you can't have a perfect job, and then I call your job perfect. Where do the fears show up?
In failing the person in front of me.
Mm,
And that's something that as a counselor, I've worked really hard to build into my identity, that I'm not here to save people, I'm here to help people. And
mm,
that's taken a lot of the pressure off of me to save people, because I can't save everyone. I might not even save most of the people I see, but I can help them. Um, like my version of failing someone is showing up and not being totally tuned into the conversation, or not being sure what resource to direct them to help them even more. And one of the questions I always ask someone when they're at the end of an appointment with me is, I don't care if it's a positive thing or a negative thing, but do you feel like you got something out of today's conversation? And I warn people that sometimes in therapy, you're going to leave here feeling worse than when you came in. I'm okay with that, because that means we touched something painful. And if you're in pain, we needed to talk about it. But my worst fear is that someone will answer that question with, no, I didn't get anything out of this conversation.
mm.
That's my version of failing someone.
It kind of goes back to when the rules don't allow you to achieve self mastery, you get creative. And it's here, like, if failure is what's so scary, which is understandable, it is for a lot of people, redefining what failure and redefining what success looks like so that you can reach those successes much more often.
Mm-hmm.
Again, getting that into that creative space of understanding your personality and what you're bringing to work. So when people are working with an eight, because honestly, when I read the type eight, the challenger, I think a lot of people might feel this way. Sounds kind of scary.
You know, you're not wrong. It is kind of scary to work with an 8, and I think I would, if I were working across from another 8, I would really need that person to be a healthy 8. Otherwise,
Mm,
you're going to have a really domineering, even bully coworker. I recognize that my personality, when it's not healthy, is a really unhealthy personality to be around, or a really unpleasant personality to be around. Um, Something that was reflected back to me in my first couple of weeks working in this program. We were all, uh, so me and my coworkers, we work in a small building with each other, and we were all gathered around the conference table at the end of the day. And it was the end of my first week. That's what it was. And my coworkers asked me what I thought about the caregiver trailer. And I was honest with them, and I said, every single one of you has come up to me individually and asked me what I think about you all as individuals. That's what I've noticed. And one of my other counselors, she started chuckling to herself, and she looked over at me and she goes, "You're a truth teller." And
yes, ma'am.
yeah, I think that that's really important to recognize when you're working with an 8 as a coworker. They are not going to mollycoddle you. They are
Mhm.
going to get the job done, and they want to be successful. And if you can help them be successful, by God, they want to take you with them. But if you're in our way, oh child, get out the
Ooh, child.
way, child.
I totally see that with my eight clients. Um, and my goodness, the like power they possess to do really cool things is amazing. But I've seen just how they, personal stories they've told me about, like, not totally vibing with coworkers all the time and navigating that. I think that's a really powerful part of an eight, not of a healthy eight, not making yourself smaller to make other people feel good.
Oh, that was probably one of the best lessons I learned in being a young woman, and it's something I've worked on in my own therapy too, is not to make myself smaller just to make someone else more comfortable around me. That was a pitfall I fell into a lot in my days when I wasn't strong in my faith, because I needed to have control over my environment and I needed to control how you perceived me. And if you perceive me as too much or too smart or too young or too feminine or too brazen, I needed to turn the volume on myself down to make you more comfortable. And I think
Mm.
part of becoming a healthy eight has been realizing I don't need to turn that down. I just need to surround myself with other healthy people who want me to be myself.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting because the more I do these interviews, the more I realize we all struggle with similar concepts, but the way that they're affecting us, it's so different based on our personality
Yeah.
and how the connection you just made to, oh, I need to control how they're perceiving me.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of my favorite lessons I've learned in this job has been a mantra of mine, which is it's nobody's business what other people think of me.
Mm. Again, I say amen.
Amen.
Yeah. And okay, so when people are working with eights, they should expect them to be honest. They should expect them to be successful. Actually, eights are the most common types of CEOs.
That checks out.
Mm-hmm.
That checks
Okay, so question for you. What do you think the superpowers of an eight are?
out. Ooh. Hmm. Give me a second because I want to answer this thoughtfully.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to turn down my light that's blinding me while
For
you think
sure.
about
For
it.
sure. So, one of the traits of a healthy eight, a really self mastered eight, is a word you mentioned earlier, which is magnanimous.
Yeah.
Eights can be such amazing leaders because they don't want to lead from the front, bossing you around, telling you what to do. They want to lead from behind you and see you succeed too. They want to bring you with them. And eights in that way are a people for other people. They are a person of others. And I think specifically a faith-based eight who integrates their faith into how they show up in the world can really connect with Christ in that way and their relationship with Christ, because I know for me personally, I think of my job as my ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And every single day, I have an opportunity to see God in every person that I interact with. And how can I treat that person as a godly person I know that they are, even if they're in pain, even if they're imperfect, even if they're making mistakes? And I think that my, what's the adjective for magnanimousness? I guess it's magnanimousness.
Magnanimity?
Yeah, that's what it is. I think here's how I'll phrase it. My ability to be a magnanimous eight comes from my faith.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. And that is just championing other people. And it sounds like it's really good to have an eight in your corner.
Oh, if I had to pick anybody to be in my corner, I would want another eight. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, okay. I love that. That makes me less afraid of eights.
Yeah. Eights are fighters. And if they can get
Yeah.
behind your cause, you've got a good fighter in your corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that goes so well with your personality. Even as we were praying before this call, you're a fierce protector of those you love and a fierce provider for those you love, uh,
Yeah.
which like just resembles Christ. Christ and God the Father so well.
Yeah.
So
They're extremely protective over all of us, everything that he created. He
yeah.
loves us.
Yeah. Okay, so thinking about younger Maddie, or maybe any eights out there who just might be struggling through this in a job that's really hard. They feel like they don't have control, or um, anywhere in their life. What would you tell them? Does it get better?
It absolutely gets better. And if I could go back in time and speak to my younger self, I think my message for her would be remember who you are. And if you can't remember, go find her.
Hmm, that's really sweet.
Yeah. Because I spent so much of my time searching for myself. And I realize even now in this moment saying that I wasn't really searching for myself, I was searching for God.
Yeah.
And to find myself was finding God who made me and created me and protects me and loves me. That is me, my creator. So if I struggle, I need to remember who I am, which is a God made creature and a Christian. And if I can't remember who I am, I need to go and find her.
Mm, that makes me want to cry.
Same.
And I was gonna ask you, how do you go find her? But you answered. You find her by finding God and
Mhm.
getting back into that relationship with Him, whatever that looks like.
100%.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have so loved learning more about you as an eight.
Thanks. I
I
feel like I also learned about myself as an 8 having this conversation with you.
Yeah. External processors
Yes,
handshake.
ma'am.
Because I feel like I mean, it is very par for the course for Maddie and I to be having an Enneagram discussion, but um, the way that
Yeah,
you can still dive into it.
we did the
Yeah.
Enneagram at my bachelorette. That's how much
Yeah.
we talk about the Enneagram.
We did. We did. My goodness. And just as a little shout out, we're recording this early because the Tuesday that we record this, it's actually, or the Tuesday that we release this, is the Tuesday after Maddie's wedding.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's
so
so
we're
exciting.
releasing on October 29th, and Maddie gets married the weekend before that. So,
Yes, to a 1, no less.
the 1-8 relationships really work, though, if I do say so myself.
Oh, thank goodness.
But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for providing the just wisdom and also sharing your story so other people can see that it gets better. The dream job is possible to land, and there are such beautiful things and powerful things about being an 8, but really that's all founded first in your relationship with Christ. All those messages you shared, I pray resonate with many people out there. And thank you for being here. You're so
Thanks for
cool.
having me. Oh, shucks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. To get an even more meaningful head start into your calling, head to thecalledcareer.com, where my fellow career coach Audrey and I have created a whole suite of free resources and tools to help you get clear and get a job today. For those who are definitely ready to land a job or start a business in the next 6 to 12 months, we're here to help you biblically and practically discern your calling through coaching, reflection, and deep market research. Identify the job that's aligned with it, even if you currently have no idea what you want. Rebrand your resume and LinkedIn to translate your background to appeal to your future boss. P.S. We take this off your plate and do this for you. Also, we'll teach you how to land referrals and get attention from leadership through networking. Again, if that makes you nervous, we have these emails and LinkedIn messages literally written for you so you don't have to sweat. We're also here to give you unlimited interview practice so you're prepared to address every elephant in the room and knock selling yourself out of the park. Then we'll round out with helping you negotiate your salary so you land thousands more. Just so you know, recent clients have gotten $8,000 to $50,000 salary increases, even though they were totally non-traditional candidates. That's because we specialize in helping non-traditional career pivoters land jobs they're ecstatic to serve in. It takes work, but we're here to see you through until the end, when we're celebrating that day that you send me an email in all caps and you say, Kelsey, I got the job. Then you could be on the podcast. But I'll be here until then, keeping you accountable and encouraged by meeting with you literally until you land the job you want, even if that's up to 6 months from now within our program. Apply to join at thecalledcareer.com, and I'll see you next week here at Answer the Call. Bye for now.